Hey guys, so in this video we'll be going through the process of how to submit the first assignment of StylusDB on GitHub Classroom. So once you navigate to the link that has been provided you to access the assignment, you will see a screen something like this. Once you have logged in with your GitHub account, this accept this assignment button should be green for you, should be working for you. And once you click on this accept this assignment button, uh, an assignment repository will be created for you in the status 2x GitHub organization. So if we go ahead and look here, we see that this new assignment repository has been created for me. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and clone this wherever we need to clone this in our system. And once this repository has been cloned, we'll be opening this in our VS Code. So now what goes ahead is very simple. We have the docs folder which contains the tutorial for all of the 20 steps that are required to be done in order to have your minimalistic SQL DB that uses CSV files as a storage engine up and running. So let's go through the first step, that is. So in the first step, it talks about creating a node project using npm init, then installing all of the required dependencies that are there, and then configuring Jest by adding the testing script in package.json and writing a very basic test, which basically expects 1 to be 1. So now in the base repository, the step 1 is actually done by default. So if you will go ahead, install all of the dependencies that are required, and then run the command npm run test :1 to run the steps for step 1, you'll see that all of the tests are passing. But since we have not made any other changes or we have not done the step 2, if we go ahead and run npm run test :2, the tests are going to fail. So now let's go ahead and implement step 2. So in step 2, it talks about creating a sample CSV file. Let's create a new sample CSV file and copy whatever that is required to be copied there. Then this next step talks about creating a csvreader.js in the src directory. We already have a csvreader.js in the src directory, so we'll just go ahead and implement the read csv function. Since the logic for the read csv function is directly given in the tutorial file, we'll just be copy pasting it. And then the next step is to run the tests. Since the tests are already written for you, you guys don't need to go ahead and write this basic test. Obviously, we'll always encourage you to go ahead and write more test cases so that your application is more robust. But for the use case of this video, let's now go ahead and try running the pre-existing tests for step 2 again. Since we have successfully completed step 2, we now have all of the tests passing for step 2. Now just as a fun exercise, let's try running all of these tests for step 3. Since we have not done anything for step 3, these tests are failing. So now let's go ahead and try to implement step 3 as well. Step 3 talks about implementing a query parser function inside a file named queryparser.js in the src directory. So now let's first go to src directory, create our queryparser.js file, and then let's copy paste the logic from the tutorials. Now since these are very basic functions and these are the first few tutorials, that is why the logic for these functions is present directly in these tutorial files. But as you'll progress through the other steps, you'll get to see that a lot of logic has not been provided pre-coded, but you have to figure out how to code it on your own. So that the difficulty level of these tutorials keeps increasing as you move ahead towards step number 20. Now in step 3 as well, at 0.3.2, it talks about running the test. So now let's go ahead and run the test for step 3. And since everything is done, it shows that the tests pass. Now since we are done with 3 steps, let's go ahead and commit these to the assignment repository to submit that we are done with the first 3 steps. We will simply say step 3 and we'll push to the repository. Now since this is done, let's go ahead and see what is happening on the GitHub. if we refresh our repository page, we'll see that a GitHub action is running on this. The GitHub action that is of concern for us is the auto grading GitHub action. Let's go ahead and see what is happening here. So basically, what this GitHub action is doing is we have the tests written for all of the 20 steps, and we have configured the GitHub actions to run these 20 tests on each commit. And based on the number of steps that have the test cases passing, you will be given 10 points for each step. For example, for the step 1, all of the tests passed; for step 2, all of the tests passed; and for step 3, all of the tests passed. This was expected since we implemented the first 3 steps only. Then if we go ahead to step number 4, the tests are failing. That is also expected because we have not completed step 4 yet. So in this fashion, the GitHub action is going to run all of the 20 test cases, and then it is going to award you 10 points for each of the past test cases. Sweet, and we are getting 30 points since we are done with 3 steps. So that is how your assignments will be graded, and this can be viewed on the GitHub Classroom itself as well. So for example, if we navigate to GitHub Classroom, and we see this assignment, yeah, we are seeing that there is a score of 30 by 200. So this is how you can go ahead and submit your steps on this single repository for all of the 20 steps that you need to follow. We would encourage that you commit each step so that you can see that everything is going correctly. And there might be instances where you might have to edit the tests already present in the base repository for them to pass after a certain step. So please make sure to refactor those tests to pass as well.